I don't have to worry about anyone shooting up a place. Guns are not prevalent here. Tranquilo is definitely a phrase that everyone says, just chill. I can just be who I am. I can embody my Blackness, my womanhood, my nerdiness.
Why Uruguay? So many Americans are going to Europe or
Mhm,
Kenya or
mhm,
Ghana, and you're going
mhm.
to Uruguay. How did you even think of that?
I always wanted to live abroad. And when it came down to choosing where in the world I wanted to go, I knew I wanted to be in a Spanish speaking country. That was the first thing.
Okay.
And so, because of that, I kind of looked at Spain and I thought, no, I don't really want to go to Europe. I don't really want to stay in the Northern Hemisphere. So, South America was game for me to explore and find out what's going on. And Uruguay kind of came up chatting with a friend who told me how wonderful his experience was working with the people of Uruguay and how
Oh,
kind and generous they were. And so I thought, well, I've never really heard of this little country. So I
right.
went and started my research. There wasn't a lot going on online. There wasn't a lot of chatter about it. From 2000, I'd say 14 on till I
Okay.
moved in 2017 is the time frame that I was doing the research.
Okay.
And I looked at everything from how is it for, women? What's the Black population like? What is the
Uh-huh.
history? What is the government like? How is it for marginalized people? What's
Okay.
work like? The cost of living. So I did a very deep dive as much as I could, watching YouTube videos and all of
Yeah,
these
yeah.
things. I liked very much what I saw and read. And I said, I need to go see if this is something that's really, truly for me.
What from your expectations differed? We always have these expectations or at least ideas that we go, we know it's going to be a certain way. 3 years down the road, that kind of shifts a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think has
Yes.
shifted?
The bureaucracy of things, like when I say it's slow, things are slow. I mean, things are slow. So, we're used to being able to get things done. That it's not like that here. So the time it takes to do certain things is quite a bit slower pace. So that was something that was different for me. And just access to certain things that you think you would have access to, like peanut
Uh-huh.
butter at the time.
Oh,
At the
wow.
time, I was very confused. I was like, but it's
There's
peanut butter.
no
Like,
peanut butter. Okay.
now it is like popular and it's everywhere. But when I first
That's
moved here, there's no peanut butter. And I thought I
so
was going to
funny.
have a connection because I was like, "Oh, how? We have peanuts and we eat peanuts all the time, but there was just like no
I
peanut
wonder if it's because there are more Americans now. So
butter. There's a little bit of
seriously.
globalization happening a
Yeah.
little bit.
Yeah, for
Yes.
sure. Uruguay is actually quite homogenous for the most part. It's 87 of people are of European descent, 8% I think are for Uruguayans. What is it like as a Black female and a Black
hmm
American moving to Uruguay and being, I guess, part of like the smaller group in the
hmm
country?
To be honest, it's like where I'm from. I'm from a predominantly white centered area. So it kind
Mhm.
of was very different from what I'm used to. Southern Illinois,
Oh,
near
Southern.
closer to St. Louis. So very much smaller. So that was normal for me. And for me, I had fell in love with the place as soon as I visited, and I knew that there was community here. So I knew that I had access to, the Black community here, even if it is small, it is still here. And it's growing because we have a large
Nice.
Afro Latino population coming in as immigrants now. So, and my neighborhood is actually one of the more prominent neighborhoods for
Okay.
immigrants and Black people. Ciudad Vieja, Barrio Sur, and Palermo.
In
Yes.
Montevideo. Okay, yeah. I
Mhm.
saw there's been an influx of like Dominicans and
Yes.
I was actually
Venezuela.
thinking, "Oh, how great!" Because then they'll open their hair salons.
Yes, the neighborhood is just bustling now. I see a lot of
Yeah,
Afro
yeah.
Latinos. Very nice to be
Nice.
surrounded, more by community, and we have more Black Americans are starting to come now. It's nice to see that the population is expanding, and just to see that the culture is, expanding and growing, enriching the area here.
What about, like, other areas? Like, when you move about your days, are there any
hmm
sort of instances of bias that show up, or is it really just everyone's just welcoming?
Most of the time, normally it's pretty chill. I would say there are the microaggressions, of course. Maybe someone doesn't want to move out of your way when you're on the street sometimes. Maybe people want to cut in front of you in line. But I've only had one case when I first moved here that was very pointed. And it was a lady in a grocery store. And at the time, my Spanish was not good at all. I was with my friend. We were going to go grab some lunch and we're
Uh-huh.
in the line and she started mouthing off. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't know what she's even
Yeah.
talking about. And my friend, she just started cha 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 cha. Turned out that the lady thought I was from Venezuela because we were speaking English. In this case, it was an instance of xenophobia and racism. There can be a lot of opposition to Venezuelans moving here, and she was not happy, telling me I wasn't welcome, blah, blah, blah. I should go for where I come from. My friend's over here defending me because I had no idea what was going on. But then when my friend had mentioned I was American, her tone completely switched
Oh,
because she
wow.
was like, "Oh, well, you're an American. Oh, da da da. Well, you're welcome." And I'm like,
Yeah, that happens a
mm-hmm.
lot. Yeah, the American privilege. There's so many Americans who move and don't believe they have privilege because many of them are focused on the oppression they feel they're experiencing in the United States and they feel like they're not privileged when they go to places. But I'm like, you are.
Yes, it's so good that you touch on this because that is something that I've learned and been open to as I come here. Like
Mhm.
as Black Americans, we're so used to that oppression and that way of being that our default is that. But you have to understand that not everywhere has experienced that type of oppression or understand what that is like. And so at times it comes from ignorance, not necessarily hardcore racism, and xenophobia and colorism is definitely a thing in Latin America, but it's definitely at times I feel I am treated better as a Black American versus if I was a Black Venezuelan or a Black Cuban. And I see that very often.
Or
And
a
we
Black
do
Uruguayan, probably.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. So I see it very, very much. And once people know or realize, because people will pin me as Brazilian first, but when they learn that I'm American, the attitude changes a little bit, the tone changes a little bit. And sometimes people are more prejudiced towards you depending on where you're from and maybe secondary to your color.
Yeah, I identify with that. That's a reality that I think people need to understand. You've lived there several years by now. What would
Yes.
you say is the moment that you felt like this is home? I'm really rooted here.
There's two separations for me. This is home and I'm really rooted. Those are both two separate
Oh,
things for me.
okay.
When I came for the first time in 2016 to visit and I fell in love with the place, I knew then it was home for me.
Wow.
Which is kind of crazy. I know most people aren't lucky enough to be
Yeah.
able to know within a very short time that it's home. And it's felt like home since that day. It's never changed. So home for me here, it was established. Being rooted here, there were stages of feeling rooted. After getting my first job and getting my first group of friends, and then getting my residency granted, getting established on my own in my own place, and finding another job. I had several stages of feeling rooted, but I feel the most rooted and grounded here now.
Wow, that's amazing. Is it really that easy to apply for residency as an American in Uruguay, especially with the language barrier?
I'm not gonna say that it's all like rainbows and cupcakes because I've had a little bit of PTSD
Yeah.
from this
Oh,
experience.
wow. Okay.
Because it's so stressful,
Yeah, thanks
like
for
if
being
you do
honest.
not
Yeah.
have the finances or the means to pay for someone to help you, you're all out on your
Wow.
own. You're all out with help, having friends help you, going about it on your own way. And the requirements can change from time to time. So depending on how long it takes you to get your documents together, things can change and it can make the process a little longer. Things are very time sensitive. The bureaucracy is very slow. Back when I started my process, there weren't very many people at all speaking English there at immigration. So you had to bring someone to translate with you. But now I think they might have more people coming in and having that second language to kind of help, I think, as our immigration is kind of growing. But in terms of the paperwork that you need and the requirements that you need to meet, It is very simple and
Okay.
straightforward.
You did it on your own, that's why you have, like, PTSD from the process, or
Yes, I did it on my own. I had friends help me, and I was just
Okay.
like not understanding the language because, at the time I just wasn't very well versed in this particular subject and knowing where to go. And so it would just make you nervous. And there's a lot riding on it, like I just want to
Right.
get this done. I
Yeah,
don't want to
sure,
have to deal with this. Like once
sure.
I get this done, I am able to do so many things that will make my life easier. It was just a big stressor in general to always have to worry about that not being completed.
Yeah, how long did it take?
It took longer for me than it should have, but we also had COVID in the midst of that.
Wow.
So I got my temporary residency within, I think, the first 6 months of being here. So you go, you apply, and once you submit your initial documents, you can get your temporary residency. And
Okay.
then I think now the requirements have changed. You have 2 years from that start of the process to get it done, to get in the rest. So work, verifications, fingerprints and things like that. So I started in 2008 pretty much, and I got it granted I think in 2022, I think. Yeah, so I lost my job also, and I needed
Oh.
time for job verification and things like that because you need to verify that you've been working for so long. So that also kind of pushed my process a little bit further down the line.
So what do you do
So,
when that happens? I was going to ask you about work. Can you tell us, like, what you were doing and how you
mhm,
translated that into a life in
mhm.
Uruguay? Because a lot of people's biggest fear is, "I'm gonna go broke and go home."
That's it. Yes. It's one of the biggest factors in moving abroad is finances. And when I was back in Southern Illinois, I worked in banking. So I worked at a bank and I was a real estate agent, gotten my bachelor's degree in finance. So I went to business school. When I left, I just quit my jobs. I resigned. From there, when I came to Uruguay, I just started looking for banking jobs, business development jobs, call center jobs, even. And eventually, I ended up getting a job as a business development representative. And it was actually with a MarTech company whose headquarters was in Chicago. So it was kind of cool to have that
Oh,
connect. I was very diligent. I used LinkedIn a lot to get my resume out there, to
link
network. It was a very good source. You have to be mindful, especially with all of the fake postings and things like that now.
yeah,
It served me over and over again. My first job, my second job, and just interconnecting with people can say, hey, Tiandra's a writer, I want to recommend her. And so I think being present online is very helpful if you're seeking remote work, if you're seeking potential for a higher salary. When it comes to the local market here, that's more difficult. It's about who you know. I talked to a lot of my friends here. They were very sweet, very open. In the States, we're very guarded when it comes to helping people out in terms of finding work and putting
oh,
resume-ins. I feel here people are just like, oh, I heard you're looking for work, give me your resume. Oh, I heard
wow.
of this job going on, let me give your name. I had eyes everywhere looking out. So that was very comforting to know that I wasn't just out here kind of by myself.
How
I
long did that
had
take?
Well, the very first job that I had gotten, I when I got let go, I was unemployed for an entire calendar year,
Wow. Yeah,
and
that's a
then
lot.
COVID hit.
Oh my good.
So
What did you do? Or did you have enough savings to kind of get you through?
At the time now, I did move here with my partner at the time, and so we had 2 incomes. We
Okay.
had a very But even with his income, we were still, like, paycheck to paycheck. Like, we wasn't
Uh-huh.
we was, budgeting and all of those things.
Yeah.
But I did some side, freelance projects with a friend of mine, helping her with some content, and, I did have this is important, I did get a severance when I lost my job,
Oh.
and I was also a formal employee, so I did get 6 months unemployment as well.
Oh, wow,
So
okay.
that was what I had in terms of when I lost. So I was just very diligent in that and taking up side projects. It didn't matter how much I was paid. And this is when I made the pivot from business development sales into writing. Because then
Ah,
when COVID exploded, everyone wanted content writers, remote was going boom. And so thanks to a friend of mine, she had another opportunity and said, hey, would you want to work for this company? Because I don't want to leave them without anyone to do their content and to do their social media.
right.
So we did a trial run, and I ended up starting writing for them. I still work for them to this
Okay.
day, which is great. So they're my
Like,
little one client I have.
is it
And
marketing or technical writing or
it's I write, so this was different than what I've been writing for other stuff, but I write for a swimming pool builder in New
Oh,
Jersey. So they build custom swimming pools. So
I
everything I
love
need
it.
to know about swimming pools. I do work closely with the marketing team there to write content. And so they have kind of been just a really great partner to work with all of these years. And because of them, I've been able to have some steady income even throughout my moments of unemployment. So from COVID on, that's when writing took off. And then I started writing for a marketing agency here in Uruguay through my best
Yeah.
friend.
I've always told people like, if you have a writing skill, it's just so valuable.
I feel like I have so many opportunities. And I think just in business in general, business development, finance, marketing, and technology, especially tech here, if you're into programming, graphic design, QA, project management, those are great places that you can find work. It might be difficult, especially now. I mean, because everything in terms of the job market is just really tough. People aren't hiring as
It
much.
is.
The competition is fierce now. Those, I feel like in those areas, being here in Uruguay at least, and maybe even remotely, you have the best chance of finding work in your language and getting a better salary versus working locally at a bank or, at a retail
Yeah.
shop or at a grocery store.
Yeah,
Hmm.
which I'm sure in local currency, that's not much. There's obviously growing interest in Uruguay. I feel like it's getting a lot more visibility. Is there anything you can share with us of like folks who've gone there and got it wrong, or maybe some of the mistakes that other foreigners make to
Mm.
look out for?
It's such a good question.
Yeah,
Mm.
because I feel like when I lived in the Caribbean, I've seen quite a bit of do's and don'ts in terms of like what distinguishes the folks who really adapt and integrate really well, and then those who don't and end up leaving. Learning the language is, for example, like what you've done with learning the language. To me, I can't imagine living somewhere and not learning the language because that just excludes you from so much. And then you're never
Yes.
really a part of the place.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. In addition to learning the language, which will take time, it's not a
Yeah.
race. It's a marathon and fluency is subjective. I want people to
Yeah.
understand that because
Yeah.
we put a lot of pressure on ourselves that's not necessary as long as you're making that effort. I think one of the biggest things is that oftentimes I think people like to migrate and stay within the migrant community of their country. They just want to be around other American immigrants. And I think that cuts you off from all the other enriching things you can learn. I didn't come here to just to surround myself with the same thing. It is comforting to have things familiar, people familiar, culture familiar around me and to know I have access. But I am here within Uruguay's culture. So for me, I personally make a very decisive effort to not include myself into those circles or groups of people. I only put myself with other Uruguayans. If I meet Americans on the way, that's cool, and I have, and they have become my some of my closest friends. But
Mm.
in general, I like to stay within the local community, within the people of this country because it's enriches my life. I learned so much more. I practice the language. I get to understand history and I didn't come here just to be around
Yeah,
other Americans. I came
sure.
here to be around people from everywhere. And so I make a very pointed effort to do that. So I think making sure that you are surrounding yourselves with not just the familiar, but with things that are not familiar, that with things that may be difficult to grasp or understand, because that's the point.
Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. How do you build community? Like, how is it hard to make friends in the beginning? Give us a picture of what the social life is like.
For me, I didn't have any trouble making friends. My partner at the time, he would go walking around and he kept meeting people and more friends and friends. And so we got this little community of people, Uruguayans, and from different ages and different backgrounds. And we kind of became like a little family within that first year. And when I got my job, I also made friends from work, which I
Oh,
typically
yeah.
don't. But it's a different thing. It's not the same as where I'm from.
No.
So I allowed myself to actually make real friends from work, and we are all
Oh,
still good and great friends today. And just getting myself out there, just hi, how are you? Talking, putting myself in situations where you might feel awkward because you don't understand everything everybody's saying, and there's 20 people chatting around you. But
yeah, I
just
mean, especially for women and Black women, I think that's one of the hurdles. How do I feel safe and have a community around me and I'm integrated, I have friends. If you have a job, yeah, I mean, that's great. You can meet people at the workplace.
mm-hmm,
But what if you don't? Like, what would
yes.
you say? Like, I arrive in Montevideo. I don't know anyone. I'm a solo female
Mm-hmm,
traveler. Where do I
mm-hmm.
even start?
Well, I would say if there's any events going on, go to an event and start talking with people. Or if you are a remote worker and you can go somewhere to work remotely at a cafe, chat it up with
Yeah.
somebody. I met somebody at the notary office because they picked the head. I was like, "You're speaking English." And so we exchanged some words and then I was going to leave, but I thought, this is a great friend to me.
Ah,
And so we became friends through that. So going to events and just talking with people, don't be afraid to, and people are going to ask you immediately, they're going to be curious, well, where are you from and what brings you here? And so I think, if there's any kind of cool cafe, there's lots of jazz things to do, there's art things, but just not being afraid to say, hey, hi, I'm traveling and what's there going on? And people will point you into the direction. You make
yeah.
friends,
Yeah.
just being open to it.
What's the healthcare like in Uruguay?
So, in my experience so far, it's been really great. I have public health insurance. When I had my job, I did pay for private. And you have two options. You can go privately or you can go publicly, and you can switch between the two depending. There is a monthly cost when it comes to going with private, but it's not that expensive in terms of what we're used to stateside. And then public health insurance is free. So,
Wow.
if you need anything so far, I've gone for my normal checkups, my yearly checkups, and I've had maybe one or two instances that landed me in the emergency room,
Oh,
and they were very, very good. It took a long time to be sit
yeah.
and wait, but I think that's just how it is now,
That's
and
pretty
I'm no
common.
stranger to that in the system in the US. It is kind of complicated in terms of like figuring out where to go, how to make an
Yeah.
appointment, who you need to see, but once you get those logistics down, it becomes easier to navigate. So I literally have the hospital 3 blocks from me and a clinic 3 blocks from me as well. So I just go ask for an appointment with whatever doctor. Sometimes you'll pay for your medicine. It depends on the medicine, how pricey it can be or not. Nothing in comparison to what we have to pay stateside. I mean, some things maybe,
Right.
yeah.
So it's free. I mean,
Um,
just by being a resident, you get free
yes,
public health.
yes.
And you feel comfortable, like, going to the doctors there? 'Cause,
Mhm.
here it's kinda like a toss-up.
Yes. Yes, I feel very comfortable and reassured here and my questions are answered and that's very difficult too, when you go to another country, working out your health and your medical concerns in another language and understanding
Totally.
what they're telling you, it's nerve-wracking, because you're just like, well, how do I explain my
Yeah.
pain? How do I explain my
Yeah.
my history? But I feel very well cared for and everything has been good. And I have had other friends, Black women who have had situations and have given birth and all of these things, and they were well taken care of, and they're very happy with their experience with the health system too. So
Yeah.
and as far as women's health, I feel we have a lot of support here and we have good options in terms of seeking the care we need. So that makes me feel comfortable and confident as I age being here that
Yeah.
I'll have the access to the right things and knowledgeable doctors to help. And if I feel like the public health space isn't doing it for me, or I want more English speakers or something like that, or I want a particular type of procedure, I can always switch over and go to private health, where they will
Okay.
probably have more English speaking
Sure.
people. You'll probably have to pay for your procedures, but again, they're going to be at a lesser cost than what you would typically have stateside, but you'll have access to other things that you may not have access to publicly.
You've been in Uruguay since 2017. How has the country shifted? What have you seen change, whether it's socially, politically, compared to like when you first came in terms of the country's mood and progress?
Uruguay's always been a progressive country, and it continues to be a progressive country. I believe we just legalized euthanasia. I believe we're
I saw
self-assisted
that.
death. I'm not sure if we're the first or second country to do so, but it's a very big deal. I would say a year or two into being here, there was a big campaign for trans rights. And so, I
Oh,
mean, that law has passed as well. So, in terms of the progressive nature, it is still very prevalent here. What I see change the most is I see a lot of kind of the effects of globalization a little bit and modernity a little bit. We didn't have peanut butter, now we got peanut butter. We used to have to go to the local place, like it's like a called an Abbey Tab. And you go there to pay all your bills. You go and you charge your bus card there, and you could only use cash because no one had a post system. There are stores that were still cash only. And I seen the evolution of digital currency now. I could pay my bills online now. We have it's like Amazon, but it's called Mercado Libre. And so that has like grown and expand a lot. And now you can pay with, you have Mercado Pago, you can pay with your phone. All of these technological
yeah.
advances. We're a bit behind with everybody else, but seeing how it's progressed since I've been here has been very interesting to see. I've seen several waves of immigration, and most of that has happened from other Latin American countries,
Okay.
be it, Venezuela, Cuba, or Argentina, or
Yeah.
I see a lot of influx. The mood to that is pretty good and pretty welcoming so far. Now there's, I think, more of an influx of Americans, and I've also met people from like Australia that have moved
Oh,
here,
okay.
and from other European countries.
Yeah.
I met someone from Belgium, so it's just very interesting. Like people are coming
Yeah.
from all over, and we definitely had a wave when the Russia-Ukraine war
Oh, yes.
started. We had a big wave of Russians and Ukrainians.
I don't know if you've seen some of the protests
Mhm.
probably during the summer in Mexico City, some in Lisbon, some in other
Mhm.
Spanish cities. They were already
Yes.
having housing pressures. And then you have all the Americans now flocking there, who have been flocking in big numbers, and the prices are out of control and they're being pushed out of the neighborhoods. I don't know if you see Montevideo going that way or if there's anything that people should know about moving to small, stable countries like Uruguay.
Luckily, we have not seen any of that go on. In terms of the nature of that, it's not happening at scale here. Like, my rent is still the same as every other local. It's still as pricey as the locals. We all still complain about it. And I live in one of the places that the rents are lower. And so it's very immigrant driven here, actually. And I don't see a lot of people coming in and buying up properties and things like that. Well, we do have some people that are investing, and the government of Uruguay actually is asking for foreign investors, for businesses. They're proactive in this. So they want some of that coming here, actually.
Mm.
So we're not being pushed out of our neighborhoods. So in terms of that, most of the time you'll be welcomed. Just be respectful of people and, make an effort to integrate yourself here and you'll be just fine.
What's an average budget per month for living in Montevideo?
For me as a single person, and I live very modestly, this is just like not traveling too much, having a
Sure.
little bit of fun. For a while, I was able to make it on $1,000 a month by
Okay.
myself. Sometimes that would push it, but most of the time I was able to save a little bit of money even. 1,500 by myself is great. 2,000 is fabulous. Now, if you're a person who you want to go travel all over the
Right.
world and you want to do these things, you might want a bigger budget. If you want to live in a different, nicer type of building, where you have amenities that cost you a little bit more, you might pay a much higher rent than I am paying.
That sounds reasonable on an American income, I guess. Looking back, what's been the hardest part for you of building a
Mhm.
life in Uruguay?
I think the hardest was the work situation.
Okay.
And I would say that because it wasn't just the work situation, it was my whole career and professional identity and self-worth that I kind of had to grapple with going through that process, because this is something that many people may not know or understand, but when you do move to another country, you kind of give up being able to make that higher earned salary in the US. I am now placed in the pool with Latin America when it comes to being hired. And therefore, they're not going to offer me maybe that higher salary that they're going to offer someone living in the US versus me. So I do lose out on, maybe a substantial portion of salary. And so to try to strive to get to a salary that I want, that I feel I deserve is tough. And that's even with upskilling and having the credentials and having some sort of
Yeah.
education or certificates. Even as a person who is experienced, it is still tough. But again, I'm not here because of money is a means to an end, and there's so many other things more valuable than money and finances, and that is why I'm here. If I wanted to make $1 million, I would have not left the United States. Like, if I that's not why I'm here. I'm here to be peaceful. And so grappling with that and striving to find financial freedom and obtain financial stability has been a very difficult part of living here. And the most rewarding is just I found my home. I found my place. I found my belonging. I have community and people who will ride for me, who will look out for me. And just talking to people and hearing their experiences and understanding that there is some kind of shift and exchange happening there with I'm influencing people in a way that I never thought, and they are influencing me and how I see my life and how I'm growing. So growing into the person I am and I'm becoming and finding my home has been the most rewarding out of the whole experience.
I don't know how you deal with aging family issues
Mhm.
or problems. Some of us don't have it, some of us do. Like, for example, my dad has dementia. Do you have any of those issues or not? How do you deal with that?
So far, my parents are pretty good in terms of age so
Thank
far.
God. Yeah.
They're young. Health-wise, not so great. So there's that. My grandmother is getting much older now, both of my grandparents. So that's tough. But I also have a lot of siblings. So there's that difference there. So I'm actually hoping to, be able to visit at some point because of my grandmother getting older and
Yeah.
because of these things, it's just
Yeah.
important to do if you can get back
Sure.
home. I haven't been back home but once in this whole time.
Oh,
Like, I haven't been
wow.
back states. Yeah, I went in 2022. So
It's
depending on where you move in the world financially, you may be kind of stuck where you are for a while, and you may not get to your family as quick as you want to, or you may not be able to make it for funerals. I've missed a lot of funerals of friends and family throughout these years. So the time that you spend with your family and loved ones before you move abroad is very valuable, and you have to really think about
yeah.
the concessions and the sacrifice that you're making because you were letting go of having time with them and seeing them as often and being able to access them the way that you were. And that's just what we choose when we live abroad. But it's important to really give those things some thought as you're making, the decision.
Thank you for sharing that. If you could go back to 2017, it's that version of you on the plane deciding to go to Uruguay and move there, what would you tell her, knowing what you know now?
You're going to have some bumps in the road. Your life is going to shift dramatically from what you have now, but you will eventually do it alone and you'll thrive and you'll be happy, and this will still be your home.
What's one single piece of advice to someone thinking of it now? I might just move to Uruguay.
Uruguay is such a small country. It's not consumer driven. It's very people oriented. And so when you come, don't try to fit your life that you're leaving into the life that you're building now. if that's what you feel you have to do, then Uruguay may not be the right place for you. You might need a place that offers you more, and that is okay. But there's just a very, very different way of living than we're used to in the West. Like I tell people, I joke all the time, there's only like two flavors of Doritos, man. Like you don't have all these options. There's no Sephora, there's no Ulta, there's no, there's none of these things. So if that is the type of lifestyle, that you want and is important to you, just know those things aren't really here and established for you. And so really look at the life that you want for yourself and see if that life you can live here. And if you can, wonderful, enjoy it, soak it up. And if you can't, go explore another place. But be mindful of that as you move through.
And to wrap up, let's finish the
Yes.
sentence. Living in Uruguay has taught me that.
Living in Uruguay has taught me that you don't need much at all to live a fulfilling, peaceful, stable, happy, and joyous life.